Jeremy Corbyn has just launched his bid to remain the Member of Parliament for Islington North, the North London constituency he's represented since before I was born, back in 1983, so over 4 decades ago. Now let's have a little look at his campaign launch video.
I was first elected to Parliament for Islington North in 1983, and in all those years, we, the community, have had many campaigns. We've defended and supported the Whittington Hospital. We've prevented the widening of Holloway Road and construction of a motorway through North London. We've achieved great things like Gillespie Park. We've had a lot of council housing built. We've achieved some fantastic victories together. And that is what being the local MP is all about. I believe in democracy. I want our political parties to be democratic. But members of Islington North Labour have been denied the right to choose their own candidate. And alongside that, the community as a whole has been disempowered because of that. So we have to stand up. We have to stand up and say, we're not taking this anymore. We will assert our rights. That's why I'm standing to be an independent candidate for the people of Islington North.
Now, the former leader of the Labour Party was purged by the current leadership in an act of straightforward, factional vengeance, spite, bitterness, whatever you want to call it. I didn't want to rehash this too much because it's really grubby, but let's talk about it. Suffice it to say, the frequently stated reasons for it are false, and that matters. Let's hear Keir Starmer discussing this today.
The first thing I said as Labour leader is that I would tear anti-Semitism out of our party by the roots. That was my first solemn promise, and I've followed through on that. And that is why I took the decision that Jeremy Corbyn would not stand as a Labour candidate at this election. What's happened with Jeremy standing as independent, that's a matter for him.
Firstly, there's not even a pretence there's an independent disciplinary process here, which is frequently what's said. Keir Starmer's literally gone and said it was his personal decision there to block Corbyn. Now, after the Equalities and Human Rights Commission investigation into anti-Semitism and the Labour Party published its findings in October 2020, Jeremy Corbyn released a statement in which he described anti-Semitism as absolutely abhorrent, wrong, and responsible for some of humanity's greatest crimes, emphasised the party's failure at dealing with the problem when he took over, emphasised the changes made to speed up taking action when his ally Jenny Formby became General Secretary in 2018, rebutted those who claimed anti-Semitism didn't exist in Labour, and backed the implementation of the HRC's legally binding recommendations. One of the instructions there, by the way, was for there to be an independent disciplinary process in Labour, which is a total joke, as I've outlined. Now, what Corbyn did say in that statement was that the scale of the problem was dramatically overstated by opponents. Now, given, just as one example, one right-wing columnist went on radio during the 2019 election and claimed Jeremy Corbyn wanted to reopen the gates of Auschwitz, deranged. Whatever you think about Corbyn's statement at the time, you can kind of see something of a point there, can't you? Just as that one example. I mean, which is different from their being or dismissing anti-Semitism existing, but his statement did deal with that. Now, frankly, Starmer went on to repeatedly take no action against MPs who supported him, who engaged in outright anti-Semitic tropes, and then, in fact, refused to take action against Labour's Rochdale by-election candidate who had condemned people in the media from certain Jewish quarters until there was enough outrage. Now, when Corbyn was purged, the leadership's allies went around telling everyone that it was a clause 4 moment. That is referring back to when Labour, under Tony Blair, ditched the party's commitment to public ownership in 1995. That is, in other words, proving Labour was no longer left-wing. Now, this is incredibly grubby because it shows they were looking for an excuse to purge Corbyn on political grounds and use the question of anti-Semitism to do it. Anyone who thinks that does anything other than undermine the fight against racism has no moral compass, frankly. Now, there was supposed to be an independent process, but it was all clearly driven by the leadership. Indeed, the party didn't purge Jeremy Corbyn's own membership of the party because there was no basis for doing so. So instead, they took away the Labour whip in Parliament, so he didn't sit as a Labour MP. Now, the motion which was used to prevent Corbyn standing as a Labour MP had nothing to do with anti-Semitism. As Jess Barnard, who was a member of Labour's National Executive Committee at that meeting, says, as an NEC member present at that meeting, to confirm, as I did at the time to members, Keir Starmer's motion to prevent Jeremy Corbyn returning as a Labour MP made zero mention of anti-Semitism. This kind of dishonesty undermines trust in our party and the fight against racism. Now, this whole saga is extremely revealing about who Keir Starmer is as a person, but more importantly, as a politician. He had stood for the leadership of the party, rightly saying that it wasn't policies like taxing the rich, public investment, public ownership, scrapping tuition fees, reversing NHS privatisation, and so on, that had lost Labour the election. He promised to keep those policies, to build on them. He called them pledges. He then dishonestly went back on virtually all of them, not because circumstances in the country had changed, but because he no longer needed the support of Labour members to secure the leadership of the party, and therefore decided he didn't have to stick by policies he didn't believe in. Now, we know that because, for example, when he's standing to be leader of the Labour Party, he promised Andrew Neil that there would be nationalisation of utilities in the manifesto, the interview with Andrew Neil. Then after he became leader, told the BBC's Lord Kunnersberg that he had never committed to nationalisation. Just an example of a straightforward lie. Now, he repeatedly also said Corbyn was his friend, announced the media smear campaign against him when Starmer stood for leader, then later said Corbyn had never been his friend. You can see here in Starmer the Boris Johnson pattern of lying both over the big picture and the petty. Now, Jeremy Corbyn has been a member of the Labour Party since Keir Starmer was 3 years old. Even his harshest critics say he's an excellent constituency MP. Last year, his local party near unanimously voted for him to be reselected. All that's happened here is Labour has banned his local party, Jeremy Corbyn's local party in Islington North, from having a say over who their candidate should be. And that's because the National Party knows local party members would just vote for Jeremy Corbyn to be their candidate overwhelmingly all over again. Instead, the Labour leadership imposed a shortlist of 2 candidates on the local party, preventing them from doing their own shortlist. It's just a massive upheaval to democracy. And when Keir Starmer stood for leader, one of his many promises was that there should be no impositions by the National Executive Committee of candidates that local parties should decide. Just a joke. A travesty. Amusingly, the journalist Paul Mason failed to make the shortlist. He went from really interesting and perceptive left-wing journalist to presenting Starmer as the left-wing candidate in the 2020 leadership election. And rather than reconciling that nonsense with reality, has instead turned into a comical alley for Starmer, which presumably is linked to his desperation to carpetbag a parliamentary seat for the party. This, Islington North, was the 4th seat, no less, that he's tried to carpetbag. Paul, buddy, just stop it. This is embarrassing. Now, thanks to the Tories destroying themselves, Labour's going to win this election by a landslide. The problem is they've promised to keep in place almost all the toxic Tory legacy. None of the investment our services and infrastructure needs, the booming rich not being taxed properly, our collapsing utilities not nationalised, nothing to lift children or indeed other citizens out of poverty, our workers deprived of the rights they need, a lack of ambition on the climate emergency. We could go on. That's why it's important people either vote for Green candidates or independent candidates like Jeremy Corbyn. Now, given Labour has abandoned any meaningful alternative to the Tories, we need politicians in Parliament who will offer leadership instead. Otherwise, all the pressure in politics will just come from the right, from those who believe we just need to blame migrants and Muslims and other minorities for all our problems, that we should cut taxes on the rich, let the market do what it wishes. You see, I don't think we need more of that. I don't think you probably think that either. That's why I've been backing We Deserve Better, link in the bio, a campaign to give out tens of thousands of pounds worth of money to Green and independent candidates and mobilise support for them. Indeed, a first donation of £5,000 to Corbyn led to the leadership threatening to expel him from the party membership, even though they've accepted all sorts of cash from various very right-wing Tory donors. He kept the party membership before this because they hadn't found a reason to kick him out. They just blocked him as a Labour MP. Obviously now, he's now out the Labour Party. Anyway, vote Jeremy Corbyn if you're in Islington North. I'm in Islington South, funnily enough, so I'll be voting for the Green candidate, Karen Ross there, a brilliant local candidate for the Green Party who has a great history as a diplomat and a whistleblower, rather than Emily Thornberry, who I voted for as an MP 3 times because she went on TV at the beginning of the genocidal onslaught on Gaza and refused to condemn Israel's war crimes, specifically the cutting off of water, food, energy, and so on. Crimes specifically detailed in the International Criminal Court's prosecutor's request for arrest warrants against Benjamin Netanyahu and his defence minister, Yoav Gallant. Now, our plan as a channel is to do a video in Islington North during this campaign, as well as lots of other videos around the country, starting with Bristol next week, where I'll be meeting Carla Denyer, the Green co-leader, who is standing as a candidate there and has a big chance of winning. We will keep doing our best to scrutinise all politicians, frontline politicians. The Conservative Party, who are finished, I mean, let's just be honest, they're not coming back. We need to scrutinise the next government. They're going to win a big majority and there's a failure to scrutinise what they're going to do. We're not going to fail in that manner. I can promise you that. Please like and subscribe. Do leave your comments. Do help us keep all of this and make all these documentaries at patreon.com/ownjoes84. Listen to us on podcast. I'll speak to you soon.